And to everyone who is from my channel and from Chaotic, I thank you so much for coming over here and supporting me on Black Men Unfiltered Network. I want to thank Black Man for allowing me to be on his platform. I just think that this is so great. I'm really excited to do this kickoff show and become a part of this family over here, and I think it's great. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm gonna just give a couple stats about me real quick. I am Miss Jenny. My name is actually Virginia. I became a Mrs. on March 20th of 2021. I'm 25 years old. My birthday's in June. I'm a pastor's daughter. I'm the youngest of four. Yeah, so I guess just some basic things about me that are pretty relevant at the least. So yeah, I've been married about 2.5 years now, and the topic tonight is going to be what is marriage? And I'm actually gleaning this from a podcast that I did like a year ago or a little over a year ago, where it was like a marriage podcast, and I stopped doing it because I felt like I don't really know what to say. I'm not really qualified to speak on marriage. I've only been married for like a year. Who am I? My own marriage is coming apart at the seams. Like, why should I give anybody advice? But I'm not going to go back to doing that because I like the visual format better. That was just an audio podcast. But I do feel like there is a space for people like me who are, I guess you could say, I'm still a newlywed, 2.5 years in. I think that there is a space for people like me to come in and to talk about marriage because, when it comes to things like parenting and marriage or like climbing the ladder in any field, when you see someone who's at the top, so of course they have the validation of like saying, I did it, I completed it, I walked that path. And so that they can say like, I have the credentials, I have the validation because I did it. But someone like me, I'm walking in it day by day. I'm in the trenches of marriage. I'm just figuring it out along with you guys. And I think that that's important because it's easy to kind of dismiss someone who's later on in their marriage or someone who's been married for a while because times change, and someone who's been married, for 40 years or 30 years, you can kind of say like, oh, well, things were different when you were married, or things were different when you were going through this. And you don't really remember what it's like to go through this or be in your early 20s or be in your late 20s right now, with the internet and with social media. And, so it's easy you could dismiss that. But, I am right here with you guys. I believe in marriage. I am a firm believer in marriage. I stand on it. I am pushing that agenda of marriage because we live in a society that is pushing this singleness agenda, this agenda of men going their own way and women being feminists and just pushing us apart and wanting us to feud with each other when we work best together. And so, I mean, there are other people who are talking about marriage and there are other people who are talking about relationships, of course, but you can't have too many. You can't have too many people supporting marriage and validating marriage in today's society because it's constantly under attack. So let me just throw my hat in the ring as well and give my 2 cents, however valid it might be. So all that to say, let's jump in. So when it comes to what is marriage, I have a statement that I am going to state, and then I'm going to try to break it down for you guys piece by piece, explaining the different pieces of a marriage. What is a marriage? What is not a marriage? Okay. And then I'm going to drop the link so that way you guys can come up here and we can go back and forth. If you disagree, that's fine. We can disagree respectfully. And if you agree, then, that's good. That's great. And so what is marriage? The $1 million question. And so my running definition that I have right now that I wrote down is not a, but the legally binding, consensual sexual relationship between one man and one woman. And so I'm gonna break that down. And so the fact that it is the relationship that of its own thing, like it's not just one of many types of different relationships, like it is the only one. A lot of imitators, no duplicators when it comes to marriage. There is no imitation for the real deal. And you're married. Living together, not married. Sharing bank account, not married. Got kids together, not married. Calling his mom your mom, not married. Okay, so there it is in a class all by itself. Legally binding, that is very important. And today, with people pushing the destruction of marriage, people are getting away from this. And it's even people that are kind of right leaning, like people who are like kind of libertarian. They're like, yeah, we can be married, but we don't need to get the government involved. We don't need that paperwork. My love for you is bigger than just some legal document. We don't need that. No. Anybody like, if you're talking to somebody and they want to, and you want marriage, and they're like, yeah, we can be married, but let's not get the government involved. It doesn't need to be legally binding. Huge red flag. Do not pass go on that relationship, okay? Because the thing about it is that in America, in the Western world as a whole, marriage is very easy to get out of anyway. So if you want to get out of it, to completely break down the final barrier that there is to not have a legal document, is to not have the marriage license. Because at the very least, if you have a marriage license, you have to pay a little bit of money. I guess depending on how long you've been married and if you have kids and assets and things like that. But at the very least, you got to pay at least $100 to some guy on the side of the road to get you legally divorced. Like, girl, don't. If I ever find out that one of y'all are considering getting married with no legal license, then I'm gonna be after you. It's absurd. And even then too, because a woman might try to snow you into saying, oh yeah, babe, let's get married, and we don't need to do that. Let's do it like the Africans. If you're a hotep or something, let's do it like the ancestors did it. Let's do it under the tree, and let's do it out by the river, because that's the way the ancestors did it. We'll be more tribal. No. No, we're not the ancestors. We're living today in any legitimate country, in any serious time period. They had legal documents, whether it was, with the government, or whether it was with the church, or whether it was with just the local little town that you had. It was always some kind of public document. And that's the other thing too, is that when your marriage is legally binding, it's not just the fact that it's a little bit harder to get out of, but it's the fact that it's a public record. So people can go down to the church, or they can go down to the courthouse, and they can see that you were legally married at a time. And so if you leave your spouse, or if your spouse leaves you, and you want to just pretend like it was all a bad dream, and you want to get remarried, this person, they can say, oh, were you married before? Or have you been married? And you can say, oh, no, I've never been married. And then they can go and find out whether or not that's cap. So it's very important. The legally binding aspect of it cannot be understated with how important that it is, especially if you plan on having kids, if you plan on actually building with this person. Like, not only am I a big supporter and a big founder of marriage, but I'm a big supporter of young marriage. Like, my husband and I, we were 22 when we got married. And I think that's great. If we had found each other earlier, it would have been even better, because we'd have just had even more time to build and grow together. Because the older you wait to get married, contrary to popular belief, a lot of people, they'll tell you that today, oh, it's great to get married when you're later, because you're more established and you know yourself better, and you're more of who you're going to be, and it's better, that way, which is the exact opposite. But I can talk about that at a later time, the benefits of the pros and cons of marrying younger or later and things like that. But yeah, it's good to marry young, because you can build with them. And if you're gonna marry young and you want to build something, you want to have some assets, you want to have some wealth with your spouse, you got to have that legally binding contract. I'm not about to help my husband become some entrepreneur and some great businessman, and then he's gonna run out on me 20 years from now with the newer model of me and leave me just hanging out in the wind. Like, absolutely not. So yeah, it's the relationship. It is legally binding. Next thing that needs to be is consensual. So I guess this is not something that I really need to harp on as much as the fact that it needs to be legally binding, because we live in the West. But I think that it does need to be stated just as a fact, as just a matter of fact, when it comes to marriage. Now, it does need to be consensual. You can't just it's not a legitimate marriage if you just wake up one day and your parents said, "Hey, this is your new husband," or "Hey, this is your new wife." You know, you should want your parents' blessing on your marriage. That is ideal. If you know whatever the relationship might be with your parents, you know however rocky it might be, then maybe they won't approve or maybe they won't like the person, but it is ideal to have your parents' blessing on your marriage. But they do not have the right or the authority to force you to marry anybody or to sign you up for marriage. If they're like, oh, you're taking too long. Oh, I'm worried that you're going to pick somebody that's an idiot. So I'm just going to do it for you. Sounds good. And people will say that in those cultures where the parents pick the spouse and it's arranged marriages, those marriages last longer. But I think the thing that people really fail to realize about things like that is that in those cultures where that's a thing, it's not just the fact that the parents are picking the spouses and that's the only other factor. It's the fact that in those cultures, the entire idea and the entire system of marriage is actually seriously taken. People actually care about marriage in those countries. People actually, you might actually go to jail if you cheat on your spouse in those countries. So it's not just the parents picking them out. And it's like, oh, well, if your parents pick out your spouse, then your marriage is going to be better because they know better for you. Not exactly. So that's not really a problem here, but it is important that the marriage is something that you agree to. Because um, another thing about it that I didn't think to write down, but I guess that kind of goes with the fact that it's legally binding, is the fact that marriage is supposed to be for the rest of your life. So your parents are not in the place to make decisions for you as an adult that are going to affect you for the rest of your life. You're an adult when you get married. That's going to be later on when I talk about how it's a man and a woman, not a boy and a girl when you get married. Okay. Anissa Glass says, I totally disregard the man that tried to push the idea it doesn't have to be legal. Absolutely. Absolutely. And feel free, admins, to put more comments up because I'm not looking at the comments because I find it hard to focus on two things at once. So if you see any interesting comments, then just put them up for me because I'm not actually looking at them. Corey Haga says, biblical marriage is a covenant with God between a man and a woman. Yeah, absolutely. And with biblical marriage, that's like where I'm coming from because all my perspectives are through the lens of a fundamental Christian. But of course, not everyone who gets married is a Christian, and so I'm just trying to give examples that no matter what your belief system is, if your marriage is not legally binding, consensual, sexual, and between one man and woman, it's not legitimate. Like just full stop. It doesn't matter what religion you are. But I totally agree with how you described it as well. And so, next point, sexual. If you're not consummating your marriage, then you're not in a marriage. And I find it kind of funny that people always say like, oh, I'm married to my best friend, and oh, we're just like best friends. When you're in a marriage, there needs to be a fundamental difference between your best friend and your husband. And some of y'all don't have that difference, which is a whole other topic on itself. But yeah, and this is something that you might think like, well, what kind of marriage is not consent, not being sexual? And you might think that that's something that might happen later on if the spouses get older, if the spouses get overweight, if they get sick, then they might stop having sex. But there's scenarios where a person will claim to be married. They might be legally married, but they haven't consummated their marriage, and therefore the marriage is still not legitimate. Some examples that come to mind. Now, another thing about me is that I live in coastal Virginia, and so not far from me is the largest naval base in either America or the entire world. I can't remember which one. And so I live around a lot of military people, a lot of Navy people. And military people, they are known for just having these paper marriages so they can get more money, so they can get their spousal pay. And so a lot of these marriages, the people, they hardly know each other, or they might just be good friends. And they're like, hey, can you say that you're my wife so I can get more money? Or can you say that you're my husband? And if we can both get money, if they're both in the military. And that is not a real marriage. And that is not legitimate in the eyes of God because it's not consummated. And so that's important. And because another factor of marriage that, I thought about adding, but I didn't feel like it was like crucial, is the fact that a big part of having marriage is having children. And so you can't have children if you're not having sex with each other. So that's a fundamental part of marriage. And the only reason I don't add, like, because I've heard other people define marriage, like, it's the union of a man and a woman that is, has the possibility or the 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 can't you think of the word, but the utility of being able to bear children. And I respect that definition. I think that it's pretty good. Um, but I would just say that, there are a lot of couples who can't have kids, or, there are old people who their spouse dies and they get married to someone else. And therefore, your marriage is not illegitimate if you're not going to have kids, or if you can't have kids due to whatever reason. So I'm just focusing on what makes a marriage fake versus real. And you can have a real, whole marriage in the eyes of God and it not produce any children. So that's the only reason why I didn't include that. But yeah, it doesn't matter, what have you. Well, now I'm thinking of, like, could a person who is, like, disabled, or, has their body mangled in some way, or, a lot of these kids who are getting put on these hormones and getting their bodies mutilated right now, like, will their marriages be legitimate because their bodies have been mutilated in ways that makes them eunuchs and things like that. So that's interesting. I don't know. I haven't thought about that. It's just now coming to my mind. But yeah, for the most part, you have to have, sex with your partner at least once in your marriage to have it be legitimate. And it's so funny that I'm talking about this today, because I was staying at someone's house last weekend, and they had Netflix and I don't have Netflix. So whenever I go to someone's house and they have Netflix, I use it. And I was watching this movie. It was like a romance movie, and it was a period piece. And it was about this woman who married this guy that she had, like, known since she was a child. and they got married when she was an adult. And she wanted to consummate their marriage after the wedding day, and he was, like, disgusted with her, and he didn't want anything to do with her, and he just hated the sight of her body. And I thought the plot twist was going to be like he was queer or something, but it wasn't. He just was weird, like he just was impotent or something. I don't know. But so the movie ends with, like, her meeting this new guy and her filing for not even divorce but annulment, because your marriage is not legitimate if you haven't consummated it. And she had been married for like 2 years, and she went to the doctor, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, like, your hymen is intact, and you're a full virgin, and how is that possible?" and all this stuff. So yeah, you know, if your marriage has not sexually been, unified, then you have not become one flesh. Like, God says that, that's a part of marriage, that a man will leave father and mother and will cleave to his wife, and they twain, which is just old English for two, they twain shall become one flesh. And how you become one flesh with someone that you're not touching them, you're not with them? Corey Haga once again says, "Just once, no way." For that happened. Hey, I'm not saying it's supposed to be just once. I'm saying that is the bare minimum, Corey. Okay. All right. So yeah, you have to come together at least once, to be legitimate, to be a real couple. Another example of couples who will do this paper marriage where they don't come together, they don't even really live with each other, are people who are trying to get green cards, or people who are trying to come from other countries. They'll do this. They'll especially now with these passport bros. I'm not against that idea, like that concept of a man going to another country to find a wife. I understand that things are hard here, and so sure, do what's best for you. But a lot of these women from these third world countries that these men are going to, thinking that, oh, they're just perfect and they're just perfectly traditional and they're wonderful housewives and they're just going to obey my every word. A lot of them are just looking for green cards. A lot of them are just looking for a way out of their dunghole countries, and they see you from a mile away, some sucker who's going to sweep them off their feet, and as soon as they touch down in America, they're going to be in the wind. And so to have a marriage like that is not legitimate either. Obviously, because she, wasn't even, her heart wasn't even in it. She didn't even mean what she said. But I mean, you can not necessarily mean what you say, but if you did it knowingly, willingly, consensually, and it was legally binding, and you consummated it, then that's just the boat that you're in. You need to honor what you said and what you did. But yeah, so that's another example of couples who will get married for the state, for the government, and then not fully come together as man and wife. And that's not good, and that's not legitimate. And it is important to make these distinctions as to what marriage is not, because once again, coming from the perspective of being a fundamental Christian, I believe that marriage is once and for all, until death do you part. And if your spouse leaves, or if you leave, then you're in sin. And if you get remarried, then that is adultery, and that's a really big sin, which is punishable by death under God's law. Of course, not in America law. The president of the United States, for Pete's sake, was committing adultery, and he's still walking around. So obviously not speaking in America, but in a perfect world, cheating on your spouse or getting remarried after divorce would be capital punishment. So yes, and so therefore it's important to distinguish what is not marriage. Because if someone has one of these paper marriages where, I was married to so and so, but we never actually came together as man and wife because I was in the military and I was out to sea the whole time, or because I came from Finland and I wanted to become an American. So am I cheating on my spouse? Am I committing adultery? And it's like, well, no, you're not, because you weren't married in the first place, so you're not committing adultery. But you were in sin when you were lying to the government about your marriage, when you were lying to other people about your marriage. So that's two different things, but that is still wrong. And then one last example of a couple that would be married on paper but not come together as man and wife are old people, or like poor women who, in the government. Oh, Trey F says a lot of young adults are now looking to scheme their way in and out of a marriage. To hell with the vows and the children. Yeah, exactly, Trey. I don't know if you caught the first part of the video, but yeah, people don't want to sign marriage licenses. They don't want to get the government involved because they want to easy out. And if there's no marriage license, then you're basically dating. What's the difference between being married and dating if there's no legally binding aspect? If I can just walk out of this relationship and have no legal fees or no legal consequences at all, and it's already at the bare minimum where it is right now, then what's the difference? Why even bother calling it marriage? So absolutely, Trey, you're right. People they don't care. They're just like, I want to do what I want. And when I've used you up and when I'm tired of you, I want to be able to get rid of you at minimal inconvenience. And that's really all it is. They don't love you. They just see you as someone who's giving them a good time. And when you've reached all of your value to them, when you're used up, when you're no longer of service to them, then they want to get rid of you. And so that's just another reason why you should never sign up for one of these no legally binding marriages. But back to coming together as man and wife. So yeah, another category of person who will do that are people who are low income, like single moms who are on WIC or food stamps or stuff like that. If they get married, then those benefits, those government handouts, those are going to be cut off, and so they might be they're going to be disincentivized to being married, which is probably why they're not married to their baby's father in the first place, because they're like, oh well, he only makes $10 an hour, and if we keep jumping in the sack together, but we're not married, then I can get my government benefits, and then he can also probably help out with child support or what have you. So I'm not going to get married to him, and I'm not going to get married to anybody else. And so, yeah, that's another reason why people might want to, get married, quote unquote, and not have sex with each other, or not have the legally binding paperwork. Both of those go hand in hand in that aspect. And also with old people who are on also government benefits, Social Security or things like that, I guess, where it'll affect their government benefits if they get married, because then it's like, okay, well now you make enough, so now we're gonna cut you off, and they're like, definitely not. So yeah, that's another aspect of that. Trey F, the foundation of generational wealth starts with family and ends with hard work, commitment, and respect. We are doomed. Yes, Trey over here spitting facts. Okay. Yes, yeah, that's another aspect that I was kind of touching on earlier, that my husband and I, being that we got married young, we're going to have the rest of our lives, if we live, traditional, standard lives, into our 70s or 80s, what have you, then we're going to have a lot of time to build wealth together. Because I have a little part-time job, like I have my own little business that I do, and then he works a full-time job, and he also does stuff on the side. And so, we're going to be able to build wealth with each other because we're two working together versus someone who's a single mom versus someone who's just a single guy. All of your efforts are only going into you. It's circular. It's not two compounding together. And also, even if your wife doesn't work, because once I start having children, then I'm going to, cut back on my workload. Then that's also, you might think, oh, well, if my wife's not working, so it still doesn't matter. Yeah, but if your wife is a good wife, if she's like a virtuous wife, then the contribution that she's adding to the family, is saving money by having more time to grocery shop and hunt for deals or go to different stores and find the best prices for things. You're not having to have two cars because she's not working. You don't have to have extra clothes, extra uniforms, things like that for her. You don't have to have an extra wardrobe. You don't have to put your kid in daycare because both of you aren't working. So even if you as the man are the only one working, being a married couple is still going to be financially beneficial for you because your wife is going to be able to do things for you. Like you're not going to be eating out. Like a lot of single people that eat out a lot because they're busy. Like I'm not going to work 40 hours or 50 or 60 hours, trying to keep up with inflation or what have you, and then go home and cook a full meal. Absolutely not. And so they eat out. And so if you have a wife at home, you're still going to be able to save money. Even if you're not making as much, you can save more because you're going to be eating home cooked meals. So there's that as well. Yeah, marriage is good for also wealth building. So yeah. And so that so that last point about the old people and the baby mamas and whatnot, that ends my point about the sexual relationship, how, different marriages like that will come about where people just want to say that they're married but not actually come together. And then the next thing is that it's between one man and one woman. And so I'm going to break that up into the fact that it's one. And so being a Christian, when I talk about how marriage is supposed to be one man and one woman, sometimes people will throw this back at me saying like, oh, well, didn't men in the Bible, didn't they have multiple wives? Didn't David, the man after God's own heart, didn't he have multiple wives? Didn't Solomon, the wisest man ever, didn't he have multiple wives? Didn't Abraham, the man who was called a friend of God, didn't he have multiple wives? So explain to me how I, as a man in the 21st century, am not allowed to have multiple wives. Okay, I'm glad you asked. Okay, so people are going to do what they're going to do. And the Bible is not just a book about do's and don'ts and about the story of Jesus and the story of God and how he, rescued us and all that stuff. It's not just that. It is also a document about things that happened. It's like a little snapshot window into the past. Corey Haga says having a wife helps by keeping the harlots away. Yes. And the Bible says that a whore is a deep ditch. And so that is not what you want. Okay. So having a wife, she is going to, you're going to be able to unleash or release all your sexual urges and not have to worry about STDs and bastard children and child support and all that stuff that is just totally avoidable and such a headache that no one should have to deal with. So yes, Corey, smart man. Cody is king. I think the guest is overstimulating the current value of the average woman. Most don't cook, let alone know how. Okay, Cody, that's a fact. A lot of women don't know how to cook. And now see, I cook like from scratch meals, home cooked meals, like 90% of the time, 99% of the time in our house. We eat out very little. Not even because it's expensive, because eating out is like really expensive. And even like just a couple of years ago, you could make the excuse that, oh, eating out is cheaper, so I'm gonna eat out, but not anymore. Like eating out is really expensive, even just fast food. And so it's not even just because of that, but because I'm like really into health. I'm really into wellness. I'm really into getting off the government teat when it comes to pharmaceuticals and medicines and things like that. And so I believe that food is your medicine, food is your nourishment. and that if you eat quality food, if you eat really nutrient dense food, then that is sufficient, and that can keep you well enough, and that you don't need all this extra supplementation, things like that. Let's see here. Trey F. If you are married, you can still file separate taxes to maximize the total income coming into the home. Filing jointly costs you thousands. Please cook a good meal. He will bring home the bacon. Oh, I didn't know that. That filing separately will allow you to maximize your income. So if you guys know any more interesting stuff like that, then please let me know, because I'm just one person. But together we can spread a lot of good information. So yeah. But back to Cody's comment about how a lot of women don't cook. That when I got married, I thought I was ready to be a wife. I really thought that I know what I'm doing. I've been preparing myself. I'm mentally ready. I'm gonna be a great wife. And then reality had other things to say about that. And the wind got knocked out of me when I got married, and I was like, okay, this is a lot of work. This is really hard. Um, and I was trying to cook, and I was trying to make things from scratch, and I was trying to, be a little Susie homemaker, and I was burning stuff, and I was making food that my husband was looking at like, this is supposed to be edible? Like, you want me to actually consume this? Like, what are you trying to do to me? And so it was an uphill battle, and I can't say was. I guess I have to still say is, because I'm not Martha Stewart, yet, or anything like that. I've come a long way in my cooking, and my husband can definitely vouch for that. But I'm still learning, and I've kind of gotten some things, like I've gotten some particular meals down that I know how to cook and that I kind of put on rotation. And I'll try something new every so often, but you just gotta find some things that you're good at and kind of stick to it. Find some things that your husband likes and just kind of stick to those few things. So yeah, a lot of women don't know how to cook, but cooking is a very learnable skill. It doesn't, it's something that can be taught. It's a skill that can be learned. Even if a woman is in her early 30s or late 30s, and you're interested in her and she doesn't know how to cook, I mean, that's the way a lot of things are right now. A lot of women are very ignorant when it comes to domestic skills. They don't know how to properly clean. Thankfully, cleaning is something else that I've been learning a lot as I've been a wife. I just had we rent this place that we're in, our duplex, and we just had a plumber come to fix our toilet. He actually replaced it because it had a crack in it. But and he was in our house for 2 days straight, fixing it and changing it and coming back and forth. And the day that he left, he was like, oh no, I was talking to him and I was like, yeah, you go to so many houses, I'm sure you see a lot of dirty houses, which I would hate. I hate going to people's houses and it's dirty. And he was like, oh my gosh, you're right. Like, I love how you have it in there. Like, it looks so nice. I wish my girlfriend cleaned up like you. And I wasn't fishing for a compliment. That's the way it happened. Marriage, politics, and sports says, nice to see and hear other advocates for marriage. Yeah. Yeah, we love marriage around here, It's the building block of civilization. For Pete's sake. Like, I love society. I love living in a society. I love living in a civilization. I don't want to have anarchy. And what we have right now is the spilling over of anarchy in our country. And it's like, a lot of this could be avoided if we just had strong nuclear families. So I feel like this should be an issue. This should be a thing that, like, you don't even have to be a Christian to side with. Like, it's just normal. All right, Trey F. The average woman cooks below average, just walk around looking almost pretty. Looking around almost pretty. Golly, Trey is coming for y'all head. But yeah. So long story short, I guess to wrap up what I was saying to Cody is that, yeah, a lot of women don't know how to cook. They don't know how to clean. They don't know how to respect and value their man. But they can learn. If you love her and if you really want to be with her, if she really wants to be with you and she really cares about you, she will learn. She can improve. So, it's just the way that things are right now. You gotta, take these women where they're at. Trey F. Marriage brings organization to your life. Basic marriage 101. Yes, absolutely. And I can definitely see this when it comes to my husband and I. Like, my husband, he's a typical guy. He was a bachelor, living on his own. Like, didn't have like one pair of sheets that he had on his bed all the time. Had like nothing but like freezer meals in his freezer. Didn't really have any cleaning supplies except for bleach. kind of just doing his own thing. He didn't have a lot, didn't care about a lot, when it came to his house. And when I popped up on the scene, I came in and I started adding order and things like that. And one thing that I did that I think is really beneficial for you, if you have if you're like us, which I'm just like a regular couple, is that I bought these folders to divide up all of our paperwork. Like I feel like one like stereotype about being a young adult is that if you're a mature adult if you know where your birth certificate is, and you're an immature adult if you don't know where your birth certificate is. And so my husband, he would need his birth certificate sometimes for like filing paperwork or getting a new job, and he would have to like ask his grandparents or his mom for it. And I was like, you know what, you need to order a birth certificate, get it delivered to our house, and I'm going to put it in a folder with mine, our social cards, our lease, all things like that. I'm gonna put it in one folder. I'm gonna put our tax files in another folder, put family pictures in another folder, put our debt in another folder, like organizing it out. And now whenever he needs anything, he'll be like, which folder is it in? What color is the folder? Where are the folders? So it's easier for both of us to organize our lives and know where things are. Like our closet is divided by his side and my side. Our dresser is divided, by whose clothes. Like he has his own dresser, I have my own dresser. And just having a good woman is such a benefit for men. Like women civilize men. I'm a firm believer in that. Trey F, once again, you both learn in marriage as long as she doesn't hyphenate. Oh, hyphenate your last name. Yeah. I guess I'll talk about that too at some point, whether or not you should hyphenate your name. Koi Haga, men are simple creatures, women are complicated. I guess for the most part that's true. I can't really disagree with that, if I have to say. Cody is Kim. Question for Miss Jenny. What advice would you give younger and even older women who hope to one day be a wife? Thank you, Cody. I appreciate that. Please give me some more questions if you guys are interested. So I think the most universal tip that I can give to a woman who is actually interested in being a wife is to I'm trying to think, because of course I want to immediately just jump to the Bible and say like study Proverbs chapter 31 and then you'll be good to go. So I will glean from that, because the Bible is true universally. It's not just true if you're a Christian, but the things that it teaches are just general basic truths. Oh, I know. The number one tip for a woman who wants to be a wife is to learn how to respect men. That is the key. That is the absolute key. That is the secret ingredient. If you want to be a wife, you have to learn how to respect men, because that is how men receive love, is by respect. If you're a woman and you know that you have a bad, you're flat at the mouth crazy, and that you'll say anything to a man, and that if you're even just like as joking, like you'll say like, oh, you bald-headed and dusty and all that stuff. Like, if you know that you're like that, then if you want to be somebody's wife anytime soon, then you have to work on that. I'm not one to like, I don't use profanity. I'll say things that people might consider profanity. Like I say ass, but I don't consider that profanity because that's in the Bible. So it's not profane if it's in the Bible. But if you're someone who like uses a lot of profanity, is real vulgar in the way that you talk, men don't find that cute. They think it's trashy. And so that is probably the number one thing, especially like, because that's what the Bible says, first, most importantly. So obviously it's true because that's what the Bible says. And then also, that's what you hear a lot of men say. Like, if you're going to watch like red pill content, if you're watching like Fresh and Fit, or if you used to watch Kevin Samuels, The Coffee Pod, Araco TV, Poor Man's Podcast, whoever, put and enter red pill content creator here, then they'll all say that I want a woman who respects me. If you're with a man, and I think that a lot of women, they say like, well, I can't respect a man because he's bad with his money, or he's irresponsible, or he's unserious, or he's a mama's boy. Okay, well then don't be with that guy. You have to be with a guy that you can respect, because showing him respect is the secret ingredient for your marriage. You will fail. You will fail if you do not respect your husband, because he might not leave you, because it's very rare that a man will leave his wife. You have to be a really bad wife if your husband's leaving you. Um, but he will not have as much, like, he will not run home to you. He will not, look forward to you. You will not be his trophy. You will not be his, prized possession if you don't respect him. Which is sad, because women receive love is like by tenderness and gentleness, and by typical things that we understand as love, like kisses and hugs. That's how women receive love. And so you want your husband to want to do those things for you. You want your husband to love you, and so if you want your husband to love you, you need to respect him. Oh my goodness, I cannot state that enough. Okay, Corey Haga once again says, men should never ask women where they want to eat. Eve did it and it wrecked all humanity. Oh my goodness. Eve picked the restaurant. Oh my gosh. Okay, so that's another interesting topic about why is it so hard for women to decide where they want to eat. I don't have that problem. Um, I'm actually very decisive when it comes to just life in general. I know what I want. I know where I want to be. I know who I am. I don't know. I'm just a very definitive person. Like I'm not one to hem and haw about things in general. So I find that very interesting, and that's the difference between the sexes. Trey F says, stop wearing weave, makeup, nails, listening to unmarried and unhappy friends, cook, drop that neck after work, just because respect your man. Oh my gosh, I didn't even know what drop that neck meant at first. Sir, we're trying to keep it wholesome around here, please. Okay. But yeah, I mean, no lies were told. So that is, from the horse's mouth, ladies. I mean, another thing is that if you want to know what men want, if you want to know how to be a good wife, just listen to men. They're not the one, like the other comment said, men are simple. Men will tell you what they want. You say, husband, what do you want from me? Or dear, or boyfriend, I want to be your wife. What do you want from me? And he'll say, take out all that fake hair, take out all that Indian girl's hair that you got in your head. Take off those nails, those raptor claws that you got. Take off all that clown makeup that makes you look like a drag queen. Hit the gym, cook me a hot meal, and give me a little fellatio from here and there. Hey, men are not hard to please, okay? The minutia of it is gonna vary from man to man, but generally speaking, men are that's the beauty of men. That's one of the great things about men, is that they're not difficult creatures to understand. That's a fair answer. It's important to note men and women desire different kinds of respect. Trey is right. Yeah. Yeah. And of course, women do want to be respected. Famously so from Aretha Franklin. But yeah, they receive it differently. We are different. We are equal in value, but different. Wildly different in nature. That's a quote from another podcaster named Suzanne Banker. Yeah, we are equal in value, but wildly different by nature. And so, yeah, your man, he wants to feel like he's in charge. He wants to feel like he's the boss, that he's the one who wears the pants, and that, when he says jump, you're going to say how high on the way up. And that's how men receive love. We want peace. Hey, that's another good thing. Men want peace, Men don't always want to come home and hear complaining and griping and murmuring. God hates that. God hates complaining. That is a common theme throughout the Bible, is that, God hates when, the Israelites complained in the wilderness. God hates when we as Christians gripe. He hates that, and men hate that. I mean, everybody hates that. I mean, come on, even us ladies, if we have a friend who's always complaining about her man or always complaining about her job, it's like, girl, give it a rest. Cody's king, Trey F, you forgot the most important part, talk less. Yeah, I think that goes along with peace. Talking less. I mean, men gotta be realistic. Women, we are talkative. We like to chitter chatter, and so that's just part and parcel when it comes to being a woman. Okay, if you're gonna be with us, you gotta take the good, bad, and the ugly. After age 35, give up the BAPS movie uniform from the 90s. There as to be changed. Oh, there. I guess he meant to say there has to be change now. Yeah, yeah. That movie is so tacky. I can't even believe I watched that. I don't know why I watched that movie, but yeah, that is just tacky. That's a word you don't hear a lot anymore. People don't call things tacky anymore, and they very much are. I was watching a video, and the guy, he said, "When was the last time you heard a good shame on you?" And he's like, "I'm a firm believer in that." And I was like, "Yeah." Me too. You don't hear people say shame on you anymore. And so, yeah, that, wearing the loud, crazy colors and the prints and with the stripes and the leopard print and, looking like a clown, men don't find that attractive. It's busy and loud, and that's not what men like. So, but I'm getting distracted. I haven't finished my list yet. Okay, we're almost at the end. But yeah, it's one man and one woman. And so basically, long story short, when it comes to that point, is that yes, a lot of men in the Bible, especially in the Old Testament, did have multiple wives, and God winked at their ignorance in that time period. But it is always God's standard that it be one man and one woman, like Genesis 2:24 says. Oh, and this glass says, right, it was the culture at the time to have multiple wives. God allowed it, but it was not his perfect will. Exactly. For making which, for marriage, which is one man, one woman. Exactly. Alyssa, very good point. Also, you could have as many wives as you could afford. These men need to stop the cap. You can't afford multiple wives. Period. Yes, these men are here talking about, oh, I need to have me a harem of women. What? You can't afford. You just need to stick with the one you got. Okay. So yeah. But yes, like Anissa was saying, that people did things, and just because people who are Christians did things doesn't make it right. I'm a Christian. I like to consider myself a devout Christian. I try to do good, I try to do right, but I sin, I do things wrong. And just because I do it doesn't make it right. Okay. So just because a pastor does something doesn't make it right. So, but God has set his standard, and that has never changed throughout the Bible, which is it is one man and one woman forever. Corey Haga says, but an island beauty wearing tropical colors is a living work of art. Okay, I guess he's referencing when I was saying, like, don't wear all those loud, busy colors. I guess so, maybe it just depends on the culture. And then me as a person, I just do not like loud colors and prints. Like just today, I was at a women's conference for Church Baptist ladies. And my pastor's wife, before we left, she was like, "Hey, I got these shirts gifted to me. Do you want them?" And they were like these really loud, like bright patterns and stuff. And I was like, "Thanks, but no thanks." I like plain. I like solid colors. um, Besides the point. But my last point, and I think I do want to bring up some people on a panel to talk at some point. So you don't have to just leave comments, because like I said, I'm not seeing all of your comments. So I do want to talk to you guys if you do want. So admin, you can drop the link right now. Because if you want to join the conversation, yeah. So thank you, Black man. So yeah, you can drop the link. But I'm gonna finish my last point, and then you can bring people actually on the screen with me. So my last point is that it's a man and a woman, and so this is controversial for whatever reason. We're living in a bizarro world where people think that you can just be two women and a billy goat, and that's just as valid as anything that your grandparents did. It's the same. This is a same marriage. This is just as valid. This is just as legitimate as a marriage as anything that they had. And we should have all the same tax breaks and all the same rights as they did. Absolutely not, under no circumstances. This is the no compromise zone, okay? You're not gonna hear me placating to modern day sensibilities over here. That's not me. All right. You want to go over there, go listen to TD Jakes or Joyce Meyer or somebody to tell you what you want to hear. But I'm gonna tell you what the Bible says. And the Bible says that if a man lie with mankind as he lie with womankind, it is an abomination, and they both shall be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. And to that I say yes and amen. Okay, so I'm not interested in hearing anything about. As far as in government and society. If you want to challenge me on that on the panel, then feel free to, I guess. But God's perfect word, God's ever living, never dying, solid word is that it is man and a woman. It is not two men and two women, and it's not like two men is any worse than two women. I feel like that's another common thing that I hear. Is that people think it's so disgusting and filthy when two men are together, but they think it's like kind of hot and sexy when two women are together. It's all filthy. It's all degenerate depravity, reprobate behavior, and it's all bad. and I don't stand for any of it. Okay, and so yeah, that's basically what I have to say. I'll go over the title one more time, before, and then you can start bringing people up, which is that what is marriage? It is the legally binding, consensual sexual relationship between one man and one woman. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. And so, yeah, if anybody wants to come up, then they are free to. If you have any more questions, then please let me know. Um, but yeah, just it's just insane the fact that people are openly advocating for the destruction of marriage, for the destruction of the home. And it's like, don't you realize that that Romans 1:18-32. Yeah, yeah. Um, so yeah, that's a really good passage. But the one I just quoted was Leviticus 20:13 about if man lie with man. And so yeah, um, we're living in this crazy world where people they don't care about norms and etiquette and tradition and values. And it's like, I've heard before that evil does not create, it just like perverts what is already in, or what's already been created. And I think that that is just absolutely true, you know, because it's not like people are reinventing the wheel. Because it's not like they want to have their own thing. They're not creating their own new thing, with these homos and these poly people. They What they want is that they want to have it to be called marriage. They want it to be called the thing that we have. Um, they want it to be what we have. They want it to be called marriage, and it's not that. Why can't you have your own thing? Why can't you have your own little union that you people have together, where you go off somewhere in the wilderness and do your own thing? Why can't we have it that way? But no, they don't want to make their own thing. They can't make their own thing because marriage is the blueprint. Marriage, it is the moment. It is the go-to. There is nothing higher than saying I am someone's wife. Trey F. Learn to wear colors according to the season. No breast showing. Yeah. Yeah. And maybe that's another thing too. I've been wearing a lot of cream lately, and I think that's because it's fall. And I really like fall. It's not my favorite season. Summer is, but I've been getting more into fall lately. And so I love my cream tones. Yes, I think that's great. And yeah, no breast showing. We want to be modest. Even if you're a very well endowed woman, if you're very voluptuous, you still can be modest, and that's another good value that men don't want. Men don't want something that everyone else has had and everyone gets to see and has had a piece of. Men want to have something that feels exclusive, and so cover up those breasts and cover up those thighs, ladies. um, if nobody's coming up, then I'm gonna wrap it up at 10 o'clock, or at an hour. But yeah, so. And then another thing about it being legally binding, that I mean, because just the fact that, like, when I heard that people were like really jumping on this boat of like, oh, we're gonna have marriages, and we're not gonna do the whole paperwork thing because that's antiquated, and I'm anti-government. I'm for small government, so I don't want to get the government involved in my marriage. Um, so that's why they want to do this no license thing. And I'm just like, that just seems like all negatives. Like, what is the benefit of that? Honestly, to say, oh, I don't want the government in my marriage, and it's like the government actually does have legitimate purposes. You realize that, right? Most poor people live in a fantasy island dream. Yeah, yeah, they do. That's why they're poor. Um, and so, yeah, what is the benefit to saying like, oh, I'm gonna have this thing called marriage, but um I'm not gonna have it legally binding. Because it's like, from what I can see, is that the only benefit is to the person who is unserious about the relationship. And so it would seem like there is, oh, hello, Trey. You're on mute, by the way. Um, so yeah, it would seem that there's just there's an incentive for people who are underhanded and shady who want to have a back door to their marriage. And marriage, when it comes to marriage, burn your bridges behind you. It should be once and for all. It should be till death do you part. It should be very difficult to get out of a marriage because it's not meant to be something that you just jump in and out of at willy nilly. You know, there should be a lot of paperwork. There should be a lot of cost. It should be extremely embarrassing. You should be a social pariah if you get divorced, especially like people getting married and divorced in like under 5 years. Like, how embarrassing, how shameful. You said to this person that you love them. You said that you're gonna stand by them in sickness and in health, for richer or poor, for better or for worse. You made these vows. You gave your word, and you're a liar. You're a liar, and you can't be trusted, and it's shameful. It should be looked down upon for someone um who is gonna get married and make that public and make it a thing, and then not follow through with it. It's embarrassing. And you know and it's, of course, it's a fine line to walk when it comes to like friends and family, because it's still bad. If your parents are divorced, if you're divorced, if your best friend's divorced, it's still bad, objectively speaking. But you want to be able to get the point across to them that this is something that is bad, you're making a mistake. Or if they've already done it, that was a misstep. You should try to get back with that person. I stand by, people getting divorced, and if they have not gotten remarried yet, then getting back together with their spouse. Beg and plead and crawl on your knees if need be to salvage your marriage. Is the promises in front of your family, friends, God, and to each other not more valuable than the government authority blessing it and manipulating it? I agree. Bring back shame and no second chances. Well, no second chances. I can't stand by that, Cody. You're losing me there. But the rest of that I do agree with. That well, yeah, you should. It should matter the fact that you made this covenant, in front of your friends and family and God. But you do that also, with the government, because the government, like I was about to say, that the government has legitimate means and the government has legitimate purposes. Even if they go haywire and step way above their bounds, they do have proper parameters to be in, and one of those is marriage. All right, Corey, Haga, Trey, you guys good? You got your mics on?
Yeah, I should be good. Can you hear me? How you doing today?
Yes, you're coming in clear. Corey, are you there?
Okay.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, great. So thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate your support. What would you, I guess, Trey, you can go first because you were up here earlier. What would you like to say?
Um, I know you've been covering quite a few topics, and I just sort of happened to just find your channel, just saying, let me get on YouTube for a second between my football games. But, this is a very sensitive topic, it seems like today, for I call it my warrior class adult. That guys, just, you can go back as far as 18, 17, but I'll just say, let's just go to 21 to 35 or 40. Uh, I don't think that they really understand the benefits of starting at that age. Both of you all are working jobs, whether you're working high level jobs or whether you're working in a factory. Being a college admissions counselor within the last few years, a lot of women used to come in talking about they need a career change because working in that factory, lifting them boxes, slanging them crates ain't work happening.
Yeah.
So, in my position, I really couldn't say, hey, well, these are some things you can try. But I think now it's important for the community as a whole to really look into at least knowing that you're going to have to sacrifice something. If you're single, you sacrifice a lot of your time and energy just to try to support yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You like we say, you fit in all the bills. If you got kids, children, you having trouble picking them up from the babysitter, your car might break down. A lot of these things that happen throughout life that you don't think about, having somebody that at least I can work with will benefit me as I start to age out.
Right.
And even for men, I think, especially men of color, you're pretty much put out on the plank on the ship in the rough water from 18. You stuck in that position because if you're raising a single mother home, she doesn't know how to tell you, hey son, you're a man. It's time for you to get your own place so you can walk around, beat your chest in your own one little bedroom, studio, whatever works. I'll come over, I'll cook for you, I'll show you how to wash your nasty drawers because you still been a kid around mama, and I ain't show you how to do the personal stuff. And I think, missing out on those things in your former years, especially because it goes back and forth for the young woman and the young man. The young women, they spend a lot of their teenage years arguing with their mother about the fact that they look like they daddy, but they act like they mama. And mama see that face every day. She don't like you anyway because your body look better than hers. You done stretched her body out. She ain't really happy with you doing your teenage years. Then you got your own personality. It's a lot going on. And the young man, he's pretty much left on the island like, you figure it out. I ain't gonna show you how to wipe your butt and blow your nose and wash your clothes. And, I'm not gonna give you that. And that's where I think the father, it's almost like, as far as men, if we wanted to change in that capacity, we have to just take control of our own lives and say, hey, I'm gonna do it. Let me talk and connect with somebody who's doing it successfully and has done it for a long time. You can't talk to your 30-year-old friend talk about, man, how do you do it? He don't know either.
All right.
He don't know either.
Thank you, Trey.
So,
I'm gonna just cut you off for just a second. I'm gonna read this.
Go ahead.
From Marriage, Politics, and Sports with a $5 super chat. Thank you so much, sir or ma'am. That goes to the host. That goes to Black Man Unfiltered. So thank you for supporting his channel. Jenny, what do you say to the man who comes into a marriage fearful of being wiped out by the unfair laws that exist today? That is a very legitimate fear. The laws are very slanted. They're very biased. It's sad. And so it is reasonable to be wary of marriage for that reason. And I get that. But all that to say that that's what they want. They want you to be afraid. They want you to throw in the towel. They want to disincentivize you from being married because they know that, because at the end of the day, we're fighting a spiritual battle, not a physical battle. And so marriage is a physical representation of a lot of spiritual truths. And so that's why they hate it, whether or not they realize that consciously or not, our opposition, that is. And so we cannot let them win. We have to fight. And so as a man, if you're a man, then you have to, kind of bite the bullet. But there are a lot of really preventable measures that you can take when it comes to marriage that can really mitigate your own personal chances of divorce or ending up with a woman who's a siren. One of the biggest things is to make sure that you're looking for women who share your same values. If you're someone who is like super anti-divorce, like would never even consider it, completely off the table as a total no-go zone, then you have to find someone who shares that same value, and you might have to compromise on the way that she looks or the way that she cooks to get someone who is on that same page with you, because that is the single most important thing. Or, like if you're a Christian, then she has to be a Christian. Or if you're a Muslim, then she should be a Muslim. So you guys can have that same foundation of belief system that is together, because, the looks are going to fade and your money might come and go and, what have you. But if she's coming from a place of, because like for me personally, like my marriage has had a lot of ups and downs. It has had times of when it was really rocky, but my husband knows that I would never in a million years divorce him, because I didn't make my vows to him. I made them to God about him. And so I'm afraid of what God is going to do to me if I step out of my marriage, not necessarily what he is going to do to me. So I fear God. I love God. So I am never going to step out on my husband. I'm never going to run off on my husband because of that. And so he knows that he's dealing with someone who, has that value, has that belief system. So therefore he is secure in our marriage and he can be comfortable in that. So that's what I would say. It's hard being a man right now, especially when it comes to relationships. It's like a minefield. I get that. I totally hear that. I'm not trying to dismiss that at all, but you do have to It's like the stock market. You know, if you're gonna put in a big like okay, maybe I'm talking about things I don't know about, but it's like if you want to make a lot of money, don't you have to like bet a lot of money? Like, you know, you have to take a high risk, stock to get a high reward. Is that right? You know, um, so marriage, you know, it has the good possibility of being a really great thing that, you know, furthers the human race and furthers society, but you also have that chance of it being really bad and destroying your life. But you have to take that chance. That's what I would say. But back to what you were saying, Trey.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's always going to be talking points on how each someone can do something to make it better. Like you say, if you follow the righteous path and then follow the truth and logic of everything, it'll all work itself out in the end. You have to be willing to put in the work. And one thing, and I've been married 10 years now to my wife now, and it was probably the greatest thing that ever happened to me when at that time, um, I found myself, and I say this all the time, I found myself tricking because I had my little money, but when you out there and you trying to this and that one and this one and that one, you spending money here, spending money there, you eating here, you got to put gas in your car here, you can't eat here, you got to turn your phone off over here, you're doing all this extra stress stuff. But when I found out, when it came for me to put all my eggs in one basket, my eggs multiplied within months.
Mm.
It was overflowing within months. And the personality that I am, I'm an outsider. I'm a doer. I'm gonna pick it up. I'm gonna build it. I'm gonna tear it down, take it apart, get it all together. I'm gonna fix everything. And luckily, I was found somebody who's like, look, I work hard, but I also like to take care of my home first. Cool. I eat good every day. I exercise. I ain't got to worry about the stress. We have pillow talk conversations at night because as a unit, you want to have the same game plan going into the game. And
Right.
when things get sticky, just like, and I use a lot of sports now, just like in sports, you have to make adjustments throughout the game.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the long-term benefit for everybody within that homestead to be successful, be safe, be positive, be supportive? That's it. And then unfortunate, if and I say this, and this is the last thing I'm gonna say. If you with a person, you meet them, y'all vibing, as y'all say, and y'all kicking it, and y'all together 3 or 4 years, and then it goes into 8, 9 years, but y'all still together, blah, blah, blah. If either one of them walk away, what do you get out of it? Nothing. You get a heartache, a lot of debt. You're bashing everybody that could be in that spotlight. You're bashing all men, all women. But the difference is if you're married for 15 years, at least the way everybody's trying to make sure that they're taken care of, if somebody walk away, at least you get half because both of y'all invested 100%. So both of y'all walk away with 50%. You're still not at the bottom. You still have a place that you can start over. And when somebody leaves you and don't want you, leave them and don't want them. Go find another person that loves and adore your sin. It's very tricky, especially today in relationships, because everybody wants to overthink it. They always looking at it from the glasses half empty. Oh, they gonna leave me. Oh, you ain't even been married. How you know?
Right.
Choose your spouse wisely. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know. I'm so glad that I'm out of the game. I'm retired at 55. I don't want for nothing. And looking back, yeah, I made the best move I could have made at that time. Being out here in this single world today, no, ain't no way I would have made it. Ain't no way. I would just take $40 on Friday and go find me somebody like, come on, gonna get this $40 for this 15 minutes and call it a day. It's cheaper than buying a $400 plate to somebody with bad breath and don't even like you. So figure it out, folks. We here. Let's do it.
Thank you, Trey, for that insight. Kink the Basement with $2 super chat. Thank you very much, sir. That's greatly appreciated. Ma'am, what's your stance on the one pot? Great question. Thank you. I believe in one pot. I think that there are ways that you can maneuver it to, work best for you guys. Like you say, if one of you is bad with the money, so you're like, okay, well, we have to separate our money because you're gonna spend it all, or you're gonna, waste it or whatever. Um, but I do believe that the concept of one pot is the best because it shows that you're a unit and you have to I feel like you should just get used to doing everything together, um and like just maneuvering how you're going to operate in that. And so, but let's say like, one of you is bad with the money, and so you're like, okay, how am I going to do this one pot system? Then I think that that is where, good communication would come in, and you could say like, hey, we've been together for, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and we don't have any savings, we don't have, we still have debt, babe. Like, I think that, we've seen over the time that we've been together, excuse me, um keep burping. um but like we've seen the time that we've been together that, you do you spend a lot of the money. We need to focus on savings, we need to focus on wealth building. Maybe what we can do is maybe I'll just be the one who has the control over the money, or maybe you'll be the one who has the control over the money. And so that way it's still in one pot, but whenever you want something, you have to come to me for it. I have to give you cash for it, and that way we're not and so it's kind of like that. So all the money is still together. Both of you can see the money. So it's not like someone has something sneaking over here, that they're spending. But it's just like, you know, one person might have to take control of that one pot. I guess that's what I'm saying. So Corey, and was I saying your name right? Is it Haga?
It's actually Haga.
Haga. Okay. I'm glad I
Yeah.
asked. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. This is going well. I'm glad about this.
Um, is this the first show or is this your second one?
This is my first one on this
Oh,
channel.
that's your first one. Okay. Okay. Well, you're doing great, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, the chat room's going crazy too. It's getting interesting.
I look forward to going back and looking through it. I'm sorry I can't read it right now, or else I wouldn't like miss whatever Trey said or whatever you said, and I would lose my train of thought.
Sure. Yeah, sometimes I have to tell on myself. I feel like I troll myself in the chat sometimes. But anyway, that's all good and fun. Um, yeah, I do believe in one pot with what Hank said, and you. I agree with both of you. One person should be overseeing it. It's just like you don't walk into a woman's kitchen and tell her how to cook. You know,
Yeah.
if a man's been accustomed with dealing with money, just let him deal with it. You
Hmm.
know, it's not about people need to fight for peace instead of fighting for the lead. It's so annoying.
Yes.
I mean, peace is it's irreplaceable. It's priceless. No matter what you do in your life, fight for peace. Fight for the peace of your home and not the leadership, because leadership is actually natural. Like when it comes to little kids, mom's leading the little kids. It's when they get big enough to really cause damages when dad steps in, because now he's got like, don't tear the house apart.
Right.
There's an age thing. Everybody there's always an appointment, there's always a schedule. Um, but, when you were talking about passport bros, I have to say, I mean, I've been divorced 4 years and
Oh,
I'm 53, but I do like the idea of going someplace and finding some foreign sports model. And I don't mean some book cover model. I mean, just something that, I'm attracted to. But yeah, just kind of like an adventure, romantic adventure, I guess you could call it. But I write books too, so you got to throw that in there for the understanding how this brain works.
oh
But
wow.
but anyway, yeah, I just want to come and say thank you for this show is going great.
Thank you. Do you mind if I ask you any questions about your previous marriage?
Oh, yeah, I don't care.
Okay. So you said that was 4 years ago, correct?
Yes.
And is your ex-wife, is she remarried?
Oh yeah.
Oh, she is? Oh, okay. Because I was gonna ask you, would you be open to remarriage with her?
Not with her.
Not with her. Okay.
No. No. No.
So you feel
It's
like
just it is what it is there. I mean,
okay.
definitely different people.
How do you feel about people who divorce? Should they want to get back together? Should the opposite spouse who didn't file, should they be open to reconciliation?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people that get divorced and a lot of it just comes down to unforgiveness where
Yeah.
they need to mature a little bit, because people in America are not really held accountable to grow up.
Yeah, that's a fact.
But it also comes down to if you do get divorced or separated, and if one goes out there and runs the party life, that kind of like cuts it nil and void. For men are territorial. We don't share. The men that do share, those are still boys. I don't
Yes.
care. I don't care how much their bank account is. I don't care how old they are. They got a boy mentality because real men do not share.
Yes, absolutely. That's like what I was saying about how men want exclusivity. They don't want something that everybody in town has seen and had a piece of and taken a bite of.
Well,
They
it's a
want
commitment thing because men view respect. I mean, if a man doesn't have control at home, he how can he be seen as what's the word, competent to do business with out in the public? Nobody's going to take him seriously. He'll lose all of his respect.
yes. And
Reputation is everything. Yeah, and running around with a loose woman, that man is not going to have respect.
oh, you there, Corey? Oh, Corey went out for just a second. But yes, what Corey is saying is totally a fact, and it's not only um true just by what we see, but it's actually in the Bible that a man is not even qualified to become a pastor if he does not have a family and can control his family. Um, I'm
Yeah,
forgetting
it's
the
true.
exact verbiage. Oh, you back, Corey?
Yeah, my headphones dropped. I need to go buy another pair. They're wireless.
Oh, okay.
Um, but yeah, you're right about a pastor. But it's a lot deeper than that. It's if you get in the corporate world, if you have a man that's single and that runs around, and pays for women, he's only going to go so far, unless his
Yeah,
daddy owns the company. That's different. Um, a married man that has a mistress on the side will get away with it. That's more acceptable because he's married than a single guy who just runs around. Eh, Men have a really strange structure when it comes to how we view each other. It's just if a man can't protect a woman and his legacy, he's viewed as less. Period.
yeah,
And if he teams up with a woman that's not legacy mind, doesn't have that mindset, then it just it shows his lack of intelligence.
yeah, absolutely.
It's a harsh reality, but it's an unforgiving one, and it's been around for decade or millennials. I mean, it just is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. It shows unseriousness. Like, why should I sign this $1 million deal with you in this company if you can't even, pick the right woman, if you can't even get your wife under control? Like, what in the world? It looks bad on your character. I think that's probably what it is. It's a really big character flaw.
Well, a lot of it comes down to if you have that type of reputation, nobody wants to be seen partnering with you
Hmm.
because then it's a stain on their reputation. Well, who's he doing business with?
Right.
There's so many
Absolutely.
unwritten uh, societal rules that are just, and the higher up you go, the more that you run into. It doesn't get easier the more money you make, it gets more difficult.
Mm,
It just, I mean, it gets easier at home, but not out in public because you can say anything you want, but you don't know how much it's costing you later on.
yeah, that makes sense.
I do like basing marriage on the Bible
Okay.
because a marriage is your, most people don't see it this way. I see a marriage as you're made a covenant with God to take care of the person standing next to you.
Mhm.
It's not really with the person standing next to you.
Yeah,
You made
exactly.
you made the agreement with your creator to do that. It's but then again, I'm a deep thinker in that area. But anyway, I'm taking up enough of your time. I'll go back to the chat and troll myself.
Well, thank you, Corey. I appreciate you coming on, and I hope that you come back next Saturday.
Oh, did you have any more questions about my previews?
Um, I don't think so. Um, yeah, nothing that comes to mind right now.
Okay. Okay. All right. Keep
Yeah,
up the good work. That's all I can say.
thank you for your time. I appreciate that.
Okay. Bye for now.
Um, oh, okay. I was gonna ask Trey if he had anything else to say. Well, we're gonna start landing this plane because I like to do these for about an hour, 90 minutes max. I'm not real big on those like 5, 6, 7 hour streams. That's just not me. I get tired. I want to go get something to drink, get something to eat. So yeah. But just to recap, this evening, I am so appreciative and so thankful for the privilege, to come up here on someone else's platform and just speak freely, in our day and age where, there's so much censorship and, people are just so afraid to just say anything because people aren't going to like them or, you may get canceled or, whatever. So we need more truth tellers like Black Man. And, so I'm so thankful for his platform and allowing me up here. And be sure that when the stream ends to come back to leave a comment in the regular comment section because that'll help boost the video in the algorithm as well, so more people can see it and watch it and get up to speed for next week. I'm not sure what I'm going to talk about next week. Like I'll think about topics that I want to do and then right like the day before I stream, I see something and I'm like, oh, I want to talk about that. But then by then the thumbnail's already made and so we'll see. Whatever it is, it'll be good. It'll be candid. um so yes, I'm gonna let her ride out right here. I did actually get a Cash App. I didn't actually think I was gonna get one for my first show, but thank you to Richard Payne for that Cash App. That is really nice of you. I think I'm gonna go buy myself some iced coffee. Marriage, politics, and sports. Oh, okay. Just going back over the super chats. Thank you guys. Thank you, Hink, and thank you, Marriage, Politics, and Sports, for those super chats. The money is not what it used to be. So the fact that you guys are spending your hard-earned money on me and on the super chats, thank you so much. And yeah, that's great. And it's good to know that there's still some people out there who want to hear truth, who want to hear biblical truth, who care about marriage, care about family, care about conserving things that matter. And so this is just the beginning. We are going to go just straight up. This channel is going, it's going to blow through the roof. This movement or conservative pendulum is definitely swinging back in our favor right now. I think people are getting really sick and fed up with how things are because we've tasted, we've drunk from the cup of feminism and of Marxism and modernism and just kind of doing whatever we want and not really caring what other people have to say. And it's bitter. It's a bitter cup to drink from. And so people are waking up. And so it's good that when they come out of the matrix, as they say, that people like us and channels like this are going to be here for them, and that we can say like, yes, we're here, we're ready to catch you. And it's like, you don't have to be a hot girl. You don't have to waste your 20s, having sex with every Tom, Dick, and Harry that you come across, and you don't have to be addicted to pornography, and you don't have to be a single mom, and there's a better way, and we can show them, and we can actually save some people, um, physically and spiritually. And so, yes, this has been my time up here. Once again, I am Miss Jenny. I appreciate all of you for coming up and showing support. And I really look forward to seeing you once again next Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a blessed night, and you all have a great rest of your weekend.